Thank you for joining us. I have with us today on this very important election of the Chief Minister of Punjab, Javed Rana, who's a senior analyst. Thank you for being with us. We also have with us Zaid Gushkori, who's a senior journalist. And later we'll also be joined by Nadir Nabil Gabol, who's from the PPP. Shandana Gulzar Khan, who is from the PTI, and thank you for joining us, and Dr. Nisar Ahmed Chima, who is an M&A with PMLN. Thank you for joining us. Javed Saab, how are you looking at things in terms of the numbers at this time, in terms of the latest developments that we've seen? What is the kind of scenario that you expect now? I mean, they're only a few minutes away from the actual count now.
I think it's a kind of a dramatic situation, something which wasn't expected, and that is happening now. Because at the last minute, the Q League, the party president, has withdrawn support to its candidate Parvez Ilahi. This means apparently slightly situation may turn in favor of Hamza Shehbaz Sharif.
There's a very small margin.
But there's a very small margin. But again, there would be the second round of counting.
Okay.
And at this particular point of time, we don't know, but there is a possibility that there will be obviously division within the Q League. But on technical grounds, their votes would not be counted. So if they vote in favor of Parvez Ilahi, their votes would not be counted. At least some of them would vote for him. So, and that means there is a greater level of certainty there would be second round of voting.
But this is already, as I understand, the second round, isn't it? It's part of the, let me go to Shandana. Shandana, how, are you looking at these developments? It's certainly unexpected the way that, this direction has come in the form of a letter from Chaudhry Shujaat Hussain. What are the ramifications of this in your opinion? How are you looking at things overall?
Can you hear me, MAHRUKH, baby?
Ji, now I
can.
Can
You hear me? Assalamu alaikum, ji. Salams to all my colleagues as well. It's turned out to be more of a, how do you call that game? Anyways, it's one of those difficult games in which you pop a ball in the center and you see which comes up. Point being that, unfortunately, what we're dealing with today is not a democratic election. We're dealing with essentially, my son has to become CM, my son has to become PM, my daughter has to become this. Zardari Saab, interestingly, a couple of days ago said that he wants to see himself as the president and his son as the prime minister. Now, the problem is, I wish I could say that. I wish every regular Pakistani could say that. But the kind of dynastic politics that have destroyed this country threaten to do so. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that PTI or like-minded people will ever give up. But what's happening right now, in some sense, it's farcical. In some sense, it's a mockery of the law. Interestingly, I was in a show before you, and I met with some legal experts, not pro-PTI, and I pointed out one thing which is obvious. And that is, from the Constitution, that it doesn't matter what the head of the party per se writes. It's the head of the party, the parliamentary leader in the House, who will decide. His word counts. Another sad thing about Pakistan is we often get letters. There's that Bibi's lost letter, God bless her soul. And then there's another letter which we got from allegedly the state of Qatar to support one particular case in Panama. And then there's now this letter. I could show you 10 other letters in Pakistan and how they changed the fate of this country. The only thing that has changed in this entire election, and I don't mean the current one taking place, is there's a paradigm shift in Punjab, which has never taken place before. Before, Punjab used to vote on who they were related to, who they count on, the Biradari system, as we call it. This is for the first time that Punjab has chosen to not go that way. Now, whether PTI prevails or not, that's a different story. But if Punjab, the largest province, can stop going for kinsmen and clansmen and actually goes for a democracy, then there's hope in this country. So regardless of what happens today, Pakistan has already won.
Shandana, do you expect, I mean, if we're talking to, like you said, we're talking to legal experts, we're looking at the legality of this, obviously, do you expect this to eventually land up in court? The definition of the parliamentary leader and whether, Chaudhry Shujaat's directions would apply, or whether it is Chaudhry Parvez Ilahi who would prevail, there seems to be, some debate on that, right?
Sure. Let me just explain the background to this briefly, and then I'll get to your question. Right now, it's about Pakistan's sovereignty, both fiscal as well as your place in the community of nations. The plan that had been hatched to sort of, remove this area from China's grip has failed rather badly. India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, all three have gone ahead and bought oil from Russia. So European Union is now taking away its sanctions away from Gazprom because it can't afford a gasless winter. United States went to Saudi asking either for lower prices or more output, both refused. On the global context, Pakistan is on a losing peg. We have 173 members in the National Assembly. Punjab Assembly only matters to the extent of who becomes the chief minister. Your eyes should be on the federal government because a government that stands on one leg, which is two members in the National Assembly, could swing either way. They could get a sudden attack of the conscience, as they always do. Some manna drops from the sky and they decided that they don't like XYZ. So you can't predict any of those. What is sad in this particular incident is that the people have spoken. And Mr. Zardari sitting in... Sure. I was just going to say, Mr. Zardari sitting in Punjab.
I will just come back to you. Let me go to Rafiq Rajwana Sahab. Rajwana Sahab, how are you looking at the developments as they're happening in the Punjab Assembly at this time? What do you expect now? Of course, like I was talking to Shandana, there is some question about the parliamentary leader and the directions of the parliamentary leader, the members acting pursuant to those directions. Do you expect this to land up in court?
Actually, hurriedly, which I had a look on Article 63A, the word parliamentary leader is not mentioned as far as I recall. That is the parliamentary party. And always parliamentary party is headed by the president of the party. According to my humble view, people have different views, no doubt, that the instructions of the party president of the party will prevail. When we talk about the party and to be read with the judgment of the Supreme Court on Article 63A, they have given preference to the party. That the party reposes confidence in somebody, and if he defies that, he should be punished for that. So according to my humble view, the party leader is Chaudhry Shujat Hussain. Any instructions or directions issued by him would prevail.
Right. Let me come back to you. Let me go to Nadir Gabol. Nadir, if you've been listening, if you've been following the discussion as far as what Shandana Gulzar Khan was saying, and then also what Rafiq Rajwana Sahab has been saying. Of course, as far as the PMLN is concerned, it certainly favors them in terms of the numbers to follow directions as far as Chaudhry Shujat Hussain is concerned. And as far as the PTI is concerned, of course, it's Parvez Elahi Sahab. But overall, what do you think overall, if you look at this, it's going to end up in court? We will be looking at, some kind of a direction from there on, what the final word is as to whether it's the party president or it's the parliamentary leader in the House who's actually going to be giving the directions that then the members have to follow.
Mahrukh, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's very clear that it is the decision and the direction of the party president which counts, because the parliamentary leader can also be someone who's not the party president. And, we've seen that in several cases. Even in this case, Parvez Elahi Sahab is not the party president. And I think it's very clear what the Constitution says and the directions of the Supreme Court were in the disqualification case of 20 MPs in the first place. So even if PTI decides to go to court, I think they're not going to gain any relief from there, because the court will definitely rule in favor of the party president. And I think they'll have to end up accepting defeat one more time. Imran Khan Saab claims to be, someone who likes to win, but in the past few months, he's consistently lost, and unfortunately, he's been a spoiled sport and cannot accept defeat. So I don't know what else he's looking for at this moment.
Right. Okay. Let me come back to you. Javed Saab. You've seen as far as like the 3-4 people, there's a division of opinion on whether it's the parliamentary leader in the House or whether it's the party president, which
it may land in the court of the law, but my understanding is that probably it's going to be the party president. But I think we have to see
but who decides at this time?
I think it's going to be the deputy speaker. His ruling would be at least is going to determine these counting. And I think at this point of time, he's going to rule over it. Whose letter is going to be registered with him? And I am more inclined that he would accept the letter written by the party president Chaudhry Shujat. And on the face of it, legally speaking, the constitutional plain reading is that probably it is a party president. Now, what is the scenario from there onwards? Obviously, Pervez Elahi will have his support among the 10 members of the Punjab Assembly of his party. So, if most of them decide not to vote for Hamza Shehbaz, what would be scenario? I think that is a very interesting situation. So, I think in that context, there will be obviously 2 rounds. And in that context, the margin of the victory, maybe 1 vote or 2 votes, it would not be bigger
But
one.
as far as
And
abstaining from voting is concerned, is that
I think
also
abstaining of the voting would not be counted,
okay?
right? So if they vote in favor of Pervez Elahi, that would not be counted. Abstaining would not be counting. It means actually it is abstaining. If they vote, that means they are abstaining. So if they vote in favor of Hamza, that would be counted. So my understanding is that if not all of them, but some of them would certainly would not vote for Hamza, and then we cannot rule out the possibility that in days and weeks to come there would be again by-elections, and those who would be defected today, they would be winning back, because now the public wave is obviously in favor of
But
PTI.
in terms of the political process, in terms of what's happening in the Punjab Assembly, in terms of what happened not very long ago in the National Assembly, overall, how are you looking at the political developments?
I think both PTI, Q League, particularly Q League, PMLN, People's Party, and our other coalition partners, they are in web of their own contradictions. PTI was delaying the National Assembly session. It went up to 12 o'clock at night, and they were justifying it. Now they were upset why it was delayed for the 2 hours. So it's a pure power grab. There is they talk about the morality. None of the political party is having a higher moral ground. PTI probably would have an edge because they.
Let me come back to you. Ji, Rajwana Saab, whatever is happening in the Punjab Assembly today, certainly, whatever these developments, whatever whose side it may fall, whether it's Hamza Shehbaz who retains the CM slot, or if it goes to the PTI. The question, isn't there a larger question here as far as the political process is concerned, as far as what it means for the overall, political stability, considering the economic situation is concerned? And isn't it more important for there to be an across-the-board agreement of some sort, a charter of some sort, where political parties can agree that perhaps those interests, economic interests, need there to be some sort of a working relationship, some sort of a charter, some sort of a stability?
Yes, why not? There is no cavil to this proposition that we should have a charter of economy, and if I recall, refreshing the memory and cherishing the memories, that on the first day of convening of the National Assembly session, it was Mia Shehbaz Sharif who extended his support and who invited, or rather requested and suggested to the then Prime Minister Imran Khan Sahab that come on, let's have a charter of economy. Now the question is that whatsoever happens in the Parliament or in the Provincial Assembly, that is the process within the Assembly. If the rules are followed and the law is followed and the Constitution is followed, it should have a positive bearing on the economy. But unfortunately, if these steps taken in the Parliament, and particularly I would just reiterate and just refresh the memories of the listeners also, and who are watching this program, that when there was a no confidence motion that was within the Assembly, the parliamentarian who had elected Imran Khan Sahab as Prime Minister, the same allies had taken back their confidence which they had earlier reposed in Imran Khan Sahab. Now it was a process within the Assembly, and that was blessed by the Supreme Court of Pakistan also. And there was a final verdict on 63A also, though subject to having genuine reason to differ with the judgment of the Supreme Court to a certain extent as a student of law regarding the interpretation of Article 95 and 63A. In any case, if we go through that judgment says that the party is more important than the individuals, and party is always headed by the party president. The parliamentary leader can be changed any time by the instructions of the president of the party. As far as your question, particularly to economic stability is concerned, then I'll go back when the National Assembly had passed a resolution of no confidence against Prime Minister. Then the option was that he should have sit in the National Assembly as the leader of the opposition. He should not have gone to the street. He should not have asked to his members that they should resign. And then there is a contradiction. They are blowing hot and cold in the same breath that they had resigned from the assembly. And if I am not wrong, that the salaries were withdrawn or being withdrawn, taken by the honorable those members who had resigned. They are not appearing before the Speaker of the Assembly to verify their resignation, because en bloc one person can't say by sitting on the floor of the House or standing on the floor of the House that we all are going to resign. It is an individual act. The resignation of all the parliamentarians in the National Assembly of PTI can't be announced by one person. It is the settled law and by the Supreme Court of Pakistan that each individual member is supposed to appear before the Speaker when he is put at notice to verify his resignation. So my request would be, and I have been repeatedly requesting, that let's continue the political process within the parliament, because we have suffered a lot when the parliament was suspended, when there was there were martial laws, and we had been suffering. Now the parliament is there and set a norm that the issues should be settled within the parliament, and the economic policy should be framed, discussed within the parliament. And Imran Khan sir would have been in a better position to play his role in the parliament as leader of the opposition as well as on the street also. So I think that the political stability is necessary. Now the question is whether all the responsibility of political instability can be put on the shoulders of the present government who came into power through a constitutional process, or whether how much contributing factor is or the share is against Imran Khan Sahab. So where the balance has to be considered, where should the balance strike? That is, he should come in the parliament, it should play his role. This instability, political instability, has been created by Imran Khan Sahab. Otherwise, no confidence motion was a constitutional effort. Is there any political instability in the United Kingdom where Boris Johnson has been put out of his power? Is there any such like situation? Is there any political instability in change of the Prime Minister of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, where Qayyum Niazi was facing a no confidence motion?
Let me go to Shandana. I'll come back to you, Shandana. I hope you've been following what Rajwana Saab is saying. But overall, let me put the same question to you as far as the situation is concerned, as far as, you know, at this time, whether it's the Punjab Assembly, whether earlier it was the National Assembly, we are looking at a precarious economic situation. As I'm sure PTI is aware, your leadership is aware, overall, the situation is anything but great. And at this time, isn't it important for there to be some sort of political unity so that we can, you know, come to grips with what's happening? As far as economy is concerned.
Thank you, Mahrukh. Can I be farcical and just pose a question to you? Mr. Zardari, foreign newspapers named him as Mr. 10%. I didn't do that, PTI didn't do that. He goes to Sindh, and yesterday he makes a statement to Punjab that if the PMLQ doesn't side with me, I will make it a personal war. And it was reported on the media last night. A man who's known for running Sindh as if it were his personal fiefdom, arrives in Punjab with money bags. And for what purpose? One simple purpose. He's buying the mandate of the people. Good for him. He has the money. Let him do it. But does he think it's going to be smooth sailing thereafter? And let me say it at the outset. Punjab doesn't matter when it comes to the rules of business. Punjab only matters for the province in and of itself.
But
For the rules of
Chandana, we've
business,
seen,
I have to complete.
Bakhtawar Bhutto Zardari come out and say that, there's no proof of this, and also that, she wants to move against, she might consider moving against him, whoever's making this assertion in court. And I think she means Imran Khan Sahab when she talks about that. I'll go to Nadir, and I think, it's fair to let him answer this.
Actually, let me complete my response, please. It hardly matters who says what. Let them take the matter to court, and that's when we bring the evidence, because many things bar us. For example, right now I'm bound under the Official Secrets Act. There's certain things I can't reveal. When I'm no longer an MNA, when my resignation is accepted, rest assured I'll be the first one to provide the evidence. Let them bring the case. I'll be only too happy to participate. Third issue, let me just be very clear. In a country where you have a father and son who have a 16 billion case against them, and you make them the prime minister and the chief minister, when there's nobody else in the country of 220 million people, democracy died a very sad death that day. So let's not go on about any democracy. This is simply an elitist system which is surviving, which is struggling, and the people don't want them. It's not about Imran Khan. I keep on saying this. It's about the people of Pakistan and their rejected PDM and their dynastic leaders. But let me complete for a couple of other things. Why don't I sit in parliament? I do not take orders from the United States of America. My oath is on the Quran and the Constitution of Pakistan. The leaders of PDM, I don't mean the people, the leaders of PDM sitting there have decided to let go of Pakistan's sovereignty, of Pakistan's foreign policy. They decided to be slaves to the United States. I didn't make that decision, and no one can make that decision for me. So simple as that. The reason why we're being asked to sit in the assembly is because dozens of allegedly friendly countries have told this government that either you practice assembly with 342 members.
But Chandana, there's we've seen the Supreme Court talk about the cipher. There's been a deep judgment on this also now.
You've asked your question, I have to complete my answer. Please, you gave 10 minutes to Rajwana Saab, you have to give me my due time. This government, these people want to sit in the assembly because they're not getting money from everywhere. It's not because they have a love of democracy. They simply want the assembly full and they don't want to go for new elections. Their problem, not my problem. What Rajwana said about something about personally me, so let me clarify that. He should go to the National Assembly Secretariat, talk to the services people. The last day I got paid was 10th of April. I haven't paid a penny after that. So kindly stop mucking people's reputations when you don't know any better. And finally, the Charter of Economy. What if I took names of 3 MNAs still sitting in National Assembly of Pakistan from Noon League, when I asked them that I'd like to be a part of the Charter of Economy, and they said, look, it's absolute hogwash. We're just saying this because it sells. So Mazrat ke saath, as we say in Urdu, pardon my French, but I've not heard a TV show. I mean, this is supposed to political commentary, and all we're doing is coming up with fake stuff, which I can easily destroy. But the problem is I don't have the luxury of doing that till I'm a member of the National. Thank you.
Right. Ji Nadir, I will let you answer because obviously, the assertions that Chandana is making about Asif Ali Zardari Saab overall, in terms of of course, we've had a refutation from Bakhtawar Bhutto Zardari, but of course, your comments on that, and of course, as far as the parliamentary process is concerned, what it means at this time for this activity overall, the way it's taking place. It's been some months. We've also seen the dollar where it is today and the stage of economy where we are. So there's, I don't think there are two opinions on that from any side.
Well, of course, we know what situation the country is in right now, and we realize the gravity of the challenges that Pakistan is facing. But coming back to your first question about what Ms. Chandana is saying, I mean, it's very unfortunate that a very reasonable seeming lady, very educated lady like herself is putting false allegations on Zardari Saab without any proof. And I believe Ms. Chandana is a lawyer herself, I believe, or she has education in law. So she should know that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. It's a standard which is maintained all across the world. And if she or anyone from her party does have any proof of these alleged money bags that Asif Zardari Saab has brought to Lahore, then they are most welcome to go to the Election Commission of Pakistan, which is the authority that deals with such allegations and irregularities.
They don't seem to have a lot of confidence in the Election Commission at the moment either.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, that's the authority right now. If they have any reservations, they should, go to either the Supreme Court or, use their democratic right of peaceful protest. But as far as 2022 and today's date is concerned, the Election Commission of Pakistan is constitutionally authorized to conduct these elections, and until and unless the law changes, we have to accept whatever decision comes from the election commissioner. I'll give you an example. In Karachi, we were supposed to have the local body elections on Sunday, and the election commissioner postponed the elections, even though we were prepared for the elections. Our candidates had been working tirelessly for the past couple of months, spent a lot of money, not money to buy votes, but money obviously for basic stuff as holding corner meetings and party flags and such stuff. So obviously we're also very upset at that decision, but we accept it because obviously the Chief Election Commissioner is authorized to make such decisions. We can go to the court if we want to, but I don't think we will at this moment because it's only been postponed for a month. And if they want to postpone it again, we might actually take that course. And that's what I would suggest to Ms. Shandana and her party as well. If they have proof of these money bags, then please do go to the Election Commission. If not the Election Commission,
Let me
then
come back to you. Ji,
higher-
Javed Saab, overall this rhetoric now, as far as money bags is concerned, as far as use of money in politics is concerned, it's okay, maybe it's coming from one party at this time, but it's not just impacting one party. Don't you think it's overall, it has its impact overall on the political process of this country also, across the board politics and the way politicians are being looked at, because it's coming from all sides, no?
I think what is happening in Pakistan during last couple of months, it has strengthened undemocratic forces in Pakistan, partly. And it has created a perception, which was already there, that the politicians are corrupt, they are not trustworthy, they are power grabbers. And more importantly, the coalition partners, particularly PML and People's Party,
And the
JUI, PMLQ, they are in that line. And somehow or the other, PTI has managed that so far as the public perception is concerned, to create an impression that they are better than those of them. But my understanding is that the PTI also turned out to be power grabber whenever it got an opportunity. It compromised with the corrupt leaders. And it followed the same path which other political parties followed. So,
because as far as the PTI at this time is concerned, we are talking about an alliance between the PTI and the PMLQ. And, of course, there is this rhetoric about dynastic politics, there is this rhetoric, but, PMLQ is also in part of...
dynastic politics.
That, and of course an old political party with its leaders having, being part of other political parties. So it seems to be an across the board, everybody crying the same sort of, singing the same song, no?
Exactly, because everybody wants power, no matter at what cost. People see the morality, and somehow or the other that is not there. And I think the worst case is the PMLQ. First, Chaudhry Pervez Elahi decided to go with the PMLN and People's Party a couple of months ago. And then just within hours, they changed their decision and they decided to go with the PTI because they thought that this is a better opportunity. And afterwards, now we have seen that Chaudhry Shujat.
And now there seems to be a split between...
Split. And Chaudhry Shujat just a day ago said that his candidate is going to be Pervez Elahi. Now there is a twist that his candidate is still Pervez Elahi, but he has to be also the candidate of PMLN and not of the Imran Khan. So I think this has caused a huge misperception, or maybe a good general perception. The net loser is PMLN, which has been one of the popular party, but now I think they have already faced the music in the by-elections, and they will face the music in days and weeks and months to come. What they are not understanding, that their decision to cling to the power is going to come down very hard politically onto them.
Let me go to Shandana. There is a lot of, as far as dynastic politics is concerned, certainly PTI is against it. You've also just talked about it. But the PMLQ, your alliance with the PMLQ at this time, Isn't that, how would you respond to that? How does the PTI justify that? That's also a party which is part of that same, kind of politics, wouldn't you say? Chandana, I don't think there's a problem with audio. I don't seem to.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Now.
So your question is really valid, MAHRUKH, but the problem is the following. If I'm the chairperson of PTI, I can ensure that none of my children, my spouses, my nephews, nieces, nobody makes it to chairmanship of the party. That's the most I could do, even in terms of hereditary. Now, when it comes to our allies, I'm afraid we don't have that kind of power over them. There's only 3 parties in Pakistan at this moment, from the thousands of prominent political parties, or the hundreds or the tens or 20s, 3 of them that don't have dynastic politics at the top. Everybody has dynastic politics in Pakistan, but it is PML, it is MQM, it is Jamaat-e-Islami, and it is PTI. Our allies, I wish we could dictate our values and rules to them. And had we been able to do that, do you think we would have lost them during the, the count during the National Assembly vote of no confidence, where all of a sudden their conscience woke up? And bravo for 2 brave women, Dr. Hamida Mirza, Dr. Zubaida Jalal, as well as Saira Banu and Ghaus Bakhsh Bahar, who defied their party lines because they felt that if you had a smidgen of honor, you would resign a week, a year, 10 before you decided to go with the new government. You don't sit in one government's cabinet, you will switch over and then you sit in the same cabinet. That is beyond shameless.
But you agree, you agree that that PMLQ is essentially part of that same old order, they are part of the dynastic politics, all of that, but you feel that you have to have an alliance with them at this time, there's no other option. No. Is that what the PTI says?
No. There's a number of options I can show you. Let me just make it very clear. Let's say we don't win Punjab. What do you think happens to Pakistan? Let's say Parvez Elahi loses. Do you think PTI's cause is lost? Not at all. PTI is still going to be on the streets. We're still going to protest. We only have the right to peaceful protest, which mashallah Rana Sana destroyed by throwing CS gas on children and women and widows. But we still don't lose anything. Our motto is very clear. Till this imported Modi Sarkar, as we call them, till they're around, we're not going to sit easy. Let whoever wins today. We can't force anything. And there's some very interesting points that came up. I'd like to respond to those about the Chief Election Commissioner and the pity he showed on Sindh, and he postponed the elections, not because he decided to, he was ordered to. I wish I could tell you where this gentleman sits in his evenings and who he takes orders from. Again, we have pictures. Again, when the right time comes, we'll make sure those pictures come out. But rest assured, Chief Election Commissioner Saab didn't do this for the goodness of the country. He did it for the goodness of PTI, so they wanted to win. Let them do what they can. We can't stop them. We can only go to court against them. The other thing, I'm afraid Bakhtavar Bibi's tweet would be pretty useless when our MPAs, who have recorded the calls of people calling from special branch on behalf of Zardari Saab, told them that we're willing to go up to ₹1 billion for your vote. Everybody's on social media nowadays. Every vote counts, every voice. That's why we have to be really careful on social media. What we say is recorded. We think WhatsApp is not bugged. Everything is bugged. When it comes to the Supreme Court, ma'am, any institution, this is the final point, any institution that crosses its limits, and they go ahead of what the Constitution has allowed them to go, whether it's the judiciary, whether it's the parliament, whether it's the establishment, whether it's anyone, nobody is above this Constitution. And look at the Supreme Court decision, a cop-out which came out a few days ago, that while we haven't really had Judicial Commission to explore the conspiracy theory, we don't see any evidence of it based on the face value. Based on the face value of what? So imagine if this is your intellectual depth of the smartest people in this country, what has this country gone to? I'm sorry.
But Chandana, the Supreme Court also has given a judgment against PTI also recently. And, let me go to Rajwana Saab and then I'll let you respond to that. Ji, Rajwana Saab, can you hear me? Rajwana Saab? No. We'll continue with our special transmission on the CM election in Punjab. Thank you so much for joining us. Please continue watching. Thank you for being with us.